Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at another roadmap option which has come in. This is basically talking about the changes to the ground vehicle damage models they've talked about previously and how they kind of want to implement them. There's a few ideas here which are a bit wacko, but we're going to go through them all. And the main thing to note is if you go to the website, I'll leave a link to this article in the description, there is actually a survey button. So make sure to take the survey so you can have your thoughts, talked about. The survey goes until the 19th of April. So you basically have 3 days to get involved. Make sure to do so. It's important to have your voice heard in these things, especially since a lot of this stuff is being based around user feedback. So the major 2 points of this roadmap thing is they're trying to improve damage models of ground vehicles to make them a little bit more, I suppose, realistic, and then also adding in an element so you can actually fix your crew members. Basically a healing mechanic which is around. So we're going to discuss all of the ideas. I'll give my opinions, my thoughts on it, but as I said, make sure to go read it yourself. They talk about basically the penetration of armor, and one of the things that they bring up, which is very annoying for people, is the fact that when you shoot a vehicle, let's say something like, I don't know, a VBC or even like a Class 3P, one of the problems, especially at the high echelons with APF SDS, is you can penetrate something like that and it can do no damage because there's a lot of empty space inside of the vehicle and there isn't enough armor on the vehicle to set off the round. This was one of those things which was kind of actually solved in the hull break era, but people didn't like it because it basically meant even if you got touched by an APF SDS as a light vehicle, you ended up dying, so that wasn't really fun. So now, the way that it works is with a lot of these vehicles which are larger, which they've added a lot more recently, that the CTCV and stuff like that, is if you penetrate through them and don't hit critical modules, the tank doesn't take any damage. And this, to be honest, from a general point of view, I don't see as a huge issue apart from one factor. So when it comes to the penetration of light vehicles, you should always be doing the same thing you do with stuff like MBTs, where you are shooting for weak areas to be able to penetrate them, right? And behind those weak areas should be, whether it's the crew or whether it's, a module to take it out. You should, learn these things in general, so it shouldn't be a big idea. Where it becomes a problem, right? Where it becomes a problem is desync, okay? A lot of these vehicles, especially after some of the wheel buffs that they did, and also just the fact that a lot of vehicles at high tier are a lot faster, if there's ping differentials between you and the server and also the other player, you can shoot them in a certain place and the round just doesn't end up in that place. A lot of the time when rounds randomly ricochet off things or they just end up getting eaten by armor, it's because you are seeing something on your side which the game is not seeing because it's trying to take both sides and mash them together on the server. So in situations like that, it's incredibly annoying, right? And a lot of the problems that people run into is that. So since you can't fix that, because you can't give everybody incredibly good internet, you can't make everybody have zero ping, you can't do all of these things, then it looks like to me they're trying to find a way of fixing it without, having to worry about a bunch of the other stuff. So yeah, they don't actually mention the annoyance in this. They instead talk about the reaction to the annoyance, which is fine, but understand that's where I think the major issue comes from this. It isn't the fact that, people are getting frustrated that they shoot the back of, I don't know, like a BMP and there's nothing there because that's where, the infantry goes. I honestly think it's because they shoot the front of the BMP or the turret of the BMP, and because the guy isn't actually where he is on their screen, you end up hitting the back, and it's really, really frustrating. So the fact that they're trying to go through this and trying to fix it is good, but also at the same time, let's be honest about why this stuff happens. So they're talking about 3 ways of fixing this, okay? 3 ways in general to have a look at the problem and how to get it. The first way is pretty simple. more detailed damage models. So instead of the parts that we have right now, basically taking those parts and making them even, more compartmentalized, and then adding more on top of it. So they talk about the fact that with the M1 and the Leopard 2, addition of the hydraulic drive, supply tank, so if you actually disable that, it will disable the guidance drive. They talk about adding in stuff like electrical equipment, machine gun ammunition, stuff like that. Now, they obviously don't want to do this one because they, the language that they use here is that, look, this is going to take a lot of work and it's going to be painstaking, very much like the volumetric armor on a lot of vehicles, very much like a lot of the other things. What Gaijin likes to do, and not just Gaijin, but like every company, if you can find a solution which works for everything, so you don't have to individually do every single thing, you're going to take that over anything else. So that one there, I don't know how that would help in the situation of where you shoot a Class 3P, or you shoot like a, if you shoot a crew compartment on an IFV, I don't know why any of this would help, but that is a solution they're pushing forward. So I think that should happen anyway, just for the point of realism and making it look, nicer, and also people, their shots actually, hammering in. And you can see they've already taken steps toward this, because in the roadmap, one of the things that they're changing quite a lot is the kill feed. The kill feed is one of those things which they're massively revamping. Same with the kill cam, same with like the way that your profile interacts with the kill cam. All of those things are getting, worked on. So that is something that obviously they're working towards anyway. So this one, I don't think fixes the issue that people are going to have, especially with these light vehicles. Like, think about the Striker, right? The Striker has a huge booty, right? You're supposed to shoot the Striker here. Sometimes the engine block gets in the way, right? You shoot it here, and you kill the crew behind it. Okay, if you shoot it in the turret, it doesn't explode, right? But if you shoot it here in the booty, it also doesn't explode. They're not going to add anything to these areas which will make it explode. So I don't know why, this would fix the issue that they're trying to go for. Then the second way is basically new logic. Now this, don't do this, okay? Just don't do this, all right? As somebody who follows a lot of other games, including World of Tanks, World of Tanks is one of those games that has been trying to balance one of its like key mechanics for the longest time, artillery. And one of the ways that they balanced it was removing a lot of the damage that it does and give a stun mechanic. So what you do is you hit like a target or near a target, and the target acts dazed. So therefore a lot of its crew stats or crew skills get reduced. So you have like a period of time where you're just all over the place. That's basically what Gaijin are implementing here. So here you go. Any hit to a crew member causes a stun effect. When stunned, the camera will shake and sparks will be shown on your screen for a short period of time, about 1 to 2 seconds. Right. No. No thank you. I'm alright, thanks. I don't need random vibrations, okay? Dealing damage to the gunner or commander in vehicles with duplicate controls causes a few seconds of concussion. So basically, you just won't be able to fire back, okay? You'll just be sat there like a dead squib. Also, it also causes the camera to shake, so just a ringing effect in your ears? Are you mad? Right, okay. Once again, following other games. Enlisted, right? Enlisted, free-to-play FPS, under the Gaijin umbrella. Quite a fun game in a lot of ways. They released an update once called it was for the Battle of Stalingrad. They added the Battle of Stalingrad. They added a very controversial research system, which unfortunately was paid to win for that campaign. And also on top of it, you know what they ended up doing? They added tetanus, is it titanus? Tinnitus. There we go. They added tinnitus to the game. So one of the big things about Enlisted is on the Battle of Stalingrad campaign, you had bombing formations that would come over and just bomb everything. You also had artillery strikes. You had stationary guns. You had tanks around the place. So all the time, your guy was just shaking all over the place like this, and also just all the time in your ears. It took them 2 days to go, oh, this is stupid, and completely remove the whole thing, right? I understand that you want these things to be realistic. I get it, okay? A lot of these things are supposed to enhance gameplay in a realistic way. I do not need to feel like I'm in a tank actually getting shot at. I don't need to have headaches. I don't need all of this stuff, okay? I don't need a visual representation that I've got shot, because I hear the shot and I can look in the bottom corner and I can see everything screwed up, and then I hear my crew going, bah! How about just add that? Just like add like an effect for the crew where they're just like, ugh! Just simple as that. You don't need to just completely screw up my screen. And also a temporary drift with a variable vector and changing the gun aiming. So if you're just sat there and you get, and you get concussed for a few seconds, your gun's just going to go for a wander. So you can't, right, okay. We'll go through the rest and then we'll go through why this is a terrible idea. In this case, the initial aiming point when armor is penetrated moves away at the moment of receiving damage, taking into account the favor killer mechanics, to a random distance and direction within approximately a quarter of the screen. Okay? So let's say my cursor is where I'm aiming. After 1 to 2 seconds, the cursor will be here. Right? Or it'll be like here. Oh, you can't even see it, it's that far. So like here. So that's how far your gun will move in those 1 or 2 seconds. Okay, so why is this a bad idea? First of all, you're going to cause people to have headaches. You're going to cause people to have just a really bad time playing the game. As I said, like while playing the Battle of Stalingrad campaign on Enlisted, we did like some Twitch drops from there. And then also what ended up happening is we did like a 24-hour stream or 12-hour stream because we were doing a special thing. At the end of that stream, I was dying. Okay, because of the fact that my head had got rocked from side to side doing this with all of these new things. And as I said, they removed all of it after 2 days because it was causing people to be ill. So you don't need to do that, right? You just don't. And then on top of that, you already get a massive advantage shooting first, right? You always have in War Thunder. I don't know why you want to increase that advantage. What's the point? You already get the first shot off. You already are able to knock out whatever you want, right? And that is realistic. So why are you trying to add all these other things to make it so the winningness way of winning is now even more winning? What's the point? Can't we just sit there and be like, yeah, it already is the best way of doing it? Like, why not? Why do we have to add more stuff to make it so if you are losing, you lose harder? Because some people can't shoot straight in a video game. And they want extra mechanics to make it easier for them to screw up. Like, it's so ridiculous. Right, you already have, like, just getting bonked by a bunch of rounds around the place. You already have the fact that if you are hit and penetrated, you already take a bunch of damage. You don't need to add stuff on top of it. The engagement from that point should already be won. Okay? So the first part, I think, is okay. I don't know how it fixes the issue, but it's a positive. The second part is hilariously bad and should not be looked at. Just for once, please. Because, I've been playing a lot of top tier, and this stuff is massively focused on top tier ground, okay? I've been playing a lot of 9-0, 10-0, 8-7, 11-7. I've been pushing all around that because I knew for a fact that this stuff would start coming in because of the roadmap stuff they talked about before. One of the key things is literally mobility, and also the fact that whoever shoots first wins unless you don't know where to shoot a target. There are some times where desync gets in the way, and as somebody who plays on high ping a lot of the time, it sucks. It really does. But I don't want a situation where somebody loses harder, okay? They don't need to. They just don't need it. And I also don't want to feel pains in my head, which is what this will cause. The next one is the third way of additional sources of fire in the fighting compartment, where damage to internal modules in this area may cause them to start an internal fire. Several things can burn and smolder inside a vehicle, crew clothing, wiring, machine gun ammo, plus rubbish and oil on the floor. In this case, the fire can go out on its own, unlike an engine or fuel tank fire, and the damage it causes will be less than the damage caused by an engine or fuel fire. I mean, I suppose you can add this in, but the damage it's going to cause is just damage to crew, right? Like, that's the idea, because they're the only things that are going to be there, apart from maybe, like, the ammunition at that point, but I don't think it's needed, right? So, the better thing to do would just be doing the first option to model it a little bit better, and also maybe do some tutorials when it comes to where to shoot things, and also make it so people's ping is better. Those general things will probably work a lot better than any of these. But the fire thing is fine. You know, we kind of already have similar mechanics when it comes to certain blowout panels. Like, I remember with, like, the Puma IFE, even when the ammo goes off, usually the guy below the ammo gets cooked. So if they want to do that stuff, fine. I don't think it would change too much. But once again, it's just a more winningness thing. Okay? It's just more winning, which at top tier, you already have the fact that if you shoot first, you usually win like 95% of the time, right? This is just making the other that 95% better, okay? Which is not needed. You're supposed to be focusing on the 5%, right? The 5% where this dodgy stuff happens, or the 10% depending on who you're dealing with, okay? You don't need to make the winningness stuff better. That's already better, and that's what both of these do here. Because both of these are about penetration, right? So yeah, it's not really needed. Neither of these actually fix the fact that you shoot empty compartments, because in those empty compartments, there's not going to be anything there. Okay, I'll give you an example, right? I don't know if I can show it on the screen. Yeah, I can. So if you have a look at something like the Class 3P, actually, no, let's just do a more modern example, which is a bit newer to the game. The CTCV 105, right? So this vehicle is one which this is like focused on. So you can see here, right? It has nothing here at the top apart from the radiator that you can shoot. So you shoot straight through there. You have nothing here. You have nothing here. You have nothing here. And you have nothing here. And then you have fuel tanks at the back. So a lot of this area, if you shoot with APFSDS, it's not going to do anything. Okay? Which is why it's important to shoot here. But because of desync, that doesn't always happen. Which is why hull break was one of those things that fixed this problem, right? And this is why we've been going back to hull break over and over and over and over the point, right? It's crazy, okay? Same with like stuff like the Class 3P. Those areas, if you actually look at the vehicle itself, aren't filled with stuff. There's hardly anything there, right? Now, if you fill these areas, here, look, here, here, and then nobody takes this ammo. So, like, you have the 15 pieces in the first stage, and in the Class 3P, you have this whole area where nothing is. Same here, and same here, right? If they model stuff in these areas, so you actually take damage, then yeah, maybe that would work, which is why I kind of like the first solution. But the other two solutions don't do anything to solve the problem that you put here. That's none of them are solved. So I just don't get it. I don't understand how these are two solutions to the problem. And then they talk about healing of wounded ground crew members. So this is something they've talked about in the past. I'm pretty fine with it, if I'm honest with you. I don't see any issues with this, as long as it isn't really quick, right? And also isn't affected by crew skills. My feeling is I think they're gonna mix agility with the healing of wounded ground crew members, and I don't want them to do that. But we've all been there when we've had a tomato crew, we've survived an engagement, or we've survived a bomb, and we might as well have been destroyed, because the vehicle is just slumbering around and it's not really able to do much from the driver's point of view, from the gunner's point of view, just from everything, right? They even talk about the statistics of what, this stuff does. So the percentage of remaining health is linearly converted into repair time multiplier in the range of 0.5 to 1, and then also the reload time 1 to 1.5, and then eventually when the loader is knocked out, it's actually 2 times, right? So it's kind of crazy. So what they want to do is the automatic healing of the crew. If the crew does not receive any damage within a given time, Their health is restored to the minimum level required to remove most of the penalty for the crew to perform their duties. So basically from red to yellow, yellow to green, so on and so forth, right? If any damage is received during the healing process, it stops the countdown to the start of the healing process starts from the beginning. I'm fine with this mechanic, but what I would also note is it should not just be damage. So what also should be taken into account is if that crew member is actively being used, okay? So imagine, if we want to do this whole realistic thing, imagine you're a driver, right? And you've just got like a massive hole in your arm. Like someone's just put like a hole right here. So you can't really fix that while you're driving, right? I mean, maybe you could. Maybe you're like a Superman. Maybe you're like doing all these things. But in my opinion, when I look at something like this, I think if the crew is idle, so they're either not driving, or if the gunner is, not shooting, or, not aiming, so your turret is still, or maybe if your loader's not loading, then if they're in that idle position, then they should be able to heal. Okay, so instead of just being able to heal constantly, because you'll have these moments when you're in battle where you'll be fighting somebody and your gunner will just go from like red to yellow just instantly, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So for me, that is, something to look at and something to think about. But overall, I like this idea. I like the idea of the healing. I think overall it's completely fine. So it's nice to see they're trying to do it the simplest way possible. If only they could look at that in this part. But overall, it's okay. But yeah, so overall thoughts. I like option 1 here because it's the only one that actually addresses the issue at hand. The two other options literally just will make the game worse. I know it sucks, but it is how it is. The third way is fine, but once again, just does not actually fix the problem. And the second way is ridiculous and should be kept far away from the game as much as possible. Like, if just please think about people who do have issues when it comes to their eyes, or when it comes to their brain, or when it comes to like any of the ways that they interact with War Thunder. If you add more tinnitus effects, if you add more shaking, if you add more cracks, if you add any of this stuff, it's going to negatively affect them in a big way, right? And also at the same time, it just makes the game, whoever shoots first wins even harder. The point of this like fix is not to do that, but that's what it's going to do. Okay, but anyway, hope you have a wonderful day. Make sure to get involved in the survey, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Tullio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pieman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Alan Hacker, Ozzy Panzer, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Cam Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.